And
once we set up the cones, you guys will all have a picture of where the cage's going to be at.
So the objective is for the team with the ball to run to what we're calling a space in here, or into where we put 3 defenders here. There's only one open, so they've got to work to get to the open space, and these 3 defenders have to work to make sure there is no space. So they're always realigning. So the running lines are also running. We're not going into punch and duties or unders and overs. We just want to run at a space. So you get a running line to go through that, and they're going to be past the ball going through that space. And then the defense
is the defensive team allowed to goal 10?
They can goal 10, but now they can just sit here and go through here all the time.
Especially if they've just been tagged, then they only have 2 defense. So there's 2 more open, so it wouldn't be a wise choice.
So I struggle with like non-visual.
Yeah, that's okay.
But are we going from like the corner to the other corner, and then the defense is going from the opposite?
You
corner
can go to whichever corner you want, except
the
if
middle
you
of the
just
field?
yes.
Okay.
Start in the middle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except so if you score, the person goes through here. Everyone stays on the field except this person, and then they maintain possession.
So
if you score, you keep the ball.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're going to start the ball in the middle and put 1 3 here, 1 3 here, and say go. And they'll run to the other side to come in. First person in picks up the ball. They're on offense.
So the ball's in the
Just
middle.
to start it,
or
one
where?
time on the
Yeah.
ground.
It's kind
You
of
just
a
run,
free-for-all.
go, and then we start the game. And now you're looking to put runners running through the cones or the gates, and the defenders are either trying to tag them or stop them from getting into those spaces.
What kind of passing is allowed?
There's no whatever passing you
Whatever
want.
you want.
So it's
It'd
all
be like
about
ultimate
Trying to
frisbee,
go through
anything.
lines.
yeah, it's more
the main
about
goal.
somebody running through a space,
Yeah.
through a goal.
What constitutes a turnover? Like the ball runs a turnover, or?
Yes.
Yeah, any tag is a turnover, drop ball's a turnover.
Anything else is pretty much fair game.
How, first of all, I like, so we're looking at, this is a great starting point when we're looking at simple to more complex. Where would we go with this game now? How would we start working this, not an end goal yet, but closer to, because you asked a great question, what sort of passes?
Yeah.
So how would we get closer to our game, rugby?
So one thing that you can do is implement only backwards passes, like don't allow forwards passes, and if you wanted to make the game more difficult, you could have each of these sets of cones be a different color, and then after each turnover have the facilitator or whoever say blue cones or like yellow cones.
But where did the facilitator come from?
Oh, just the random teammate on the side.
That's the progression. I thought you were saying the progression.
No coaches. Who said anything about facilitator? Someone here had a great comment.
Or you could have it go like in a clockwise, so if you score here, then you have to go through here next.
Or it has to be a different goal.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't have to
you
be.
can't-
You can-
Correct.
you can have it
Yeah,
everywhere.
so then that would come into the structure, rules, laws.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Cool.
time.
So the facilitator's back out now, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Did someone? No? Okay. Okay, I thought someone had another idea as they were changing it. What, any other developments, any other simple to more complex here? Does that get starting to get to where we would want it? Obviously, we want it at some stage to become rugby related. Are we getting closer to the product that we're looking for?
You can mandate direction of play, right? We're only going one
Who's mandating what?
We can make it part of the rules after school.
Love it, love it. Yeah.
Say number of
So we can
passes.
change.
Yeah.
We can change the rules.
Yeah.
So we see some success here. Let me ask you something about the time. So 3v3 for 90 seconds. How many are at your training session, or how many of these do you have going at the same time?
Well, I assume that we would probably have groups of 3 per grid and have one resting in between, and then like the losers would walk.
Brilliant. So you could have 2 grids going on. You have 18 players. You have 3v3 and 3 on the sideline. Let me give you a piece of information. Visual reps. If, again, this is going back to a bit about what Salty said, but also we will show you how, Tobin, it goes back to the question you were asking me, how we can help as an assistant coach on the sideline, so that if we have a team on the sideline, but again, Solzy always goes back to they cannot be on the sideline for long. So I would cut this game in half straight away. I would go for 45 seconds, see who can score the most. And a visual team on the sideline is looking for the following. How are they scoring? What tricks can I use? What mistakes are they making? How could I do it better? And then as you got into perhaps changing the pass, like you wanted, where we would then have someone on the sideline just assisting them with, just get your hands up and push that ball across your body. That would be the small, micro skill development on the sideline for about only 30 seconds. By the time they get to you, you only have 30 seconds to say, hey guys, what are we doing well? What are we learning from what's going on here right now? And then back in again, so they're getting reps. Cool. Do we like this one?
Yeah.
Are we going to save it for this afternoon? Because you're all
You
going to
have to,
help
right now it's the only one. You
I
can throw it away later on. And give it up for me, you did a great job.
Yeah, a round of applause, guys. Come on.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Who's,
ends up being working for both sides, I guess. So playing field to start with, we've got basically two touch lines. It's kind of flexible in terms of width. We could do this on 5 versus 5, cut it down to 4 versus 4, even maybe 3, depending on number of players. Let's work on 5 versus 5. Basically have an area here that represents sort of the scrum side. So maybe channels that you have a little shorter here, a little wider out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's your 5 versus 5. This is the center line. And then we use 10 and 10 here. And then at the back end, we would have some cones that we will use later in the game. So we start off, so we have a, not a coach, but a facilitator, thank you. So you start with both teams of 5 in this area here. And there's 2 parts to the game. The first part is intended to sort of building a line on both sides, and then from there you go to actual playing one side against the other. The high level goal is to cross the line, for the defenders to cross the line of defense to launch before attackers can actually go through. When they do that, they score. And so the scoring mechanism is 1st to 10, with scores being points given to the defending team. So you start with, help me out here if I'm not recapping it. You start with facilitator tapping the ball. We have a first player that's going to be going around this cone area and try to beat his opponent to the line. So that's a straight race to begin with.
yeah.
So up here, once he crosses this line, if he's the first defender, then that's a point. And then resetting here. Touch again, the second player comes here, and those 2 players rush up, correct?
On the touch, as soon as he starts backpedaling, we'll add 1. Right, both sides will add 1, right? Scrum half will touch the ball again, they'll race up. Bump out, add 1, touch the ball, so on and so forth as they're going out. But we're focusing on the defensive side, right? And that focus is going to come into play once both lines are set, then we go into open play. So depending on what side the scrum half or facilitator will pick, we have 3 different cones. So we'll say red. This side will drop back to the red. They set up an attacking side, and then this side will drop that back and set up a defensive side. If they leave a hole, that's a point for the offense, right? Because we're trying to focus on the solid defensive line in their launch, right? They launch and one guy's out, leaves a gap, 1 point for the offense, right? And so on and so forth as they get to 10. And the nice thing about separating the grids is you can go back and forth. So they don't have to come back, switch. You just go right side blue, left side red. And the only thing that we're focusing on is the defensive side of it. So we're getting the small picture to start off with, and then we want to get them to think for themselves, and so we let them out to the whatever cone we pick. So it opens out, now they got to think how they're going to attack, and these guys got to recognize what the offense is doing and set up defense accordingly.
Who's
That's-
picking the cones?
What's that?
Who's picking the cones?
The facilitator, or scrum half, or whoever's going to be standing there.
So that in the middle right there, are those players or is
That's
that
just the race
all-
line.
or-
So the players are coming here, setting up, racing to the line.
Yeah, and in the middle of that line is like the
It's,
ball.
it's just a line, so whichever side gets to the line first
Uh-huh.
will get a point. So by the time they even get to open play, they can rack up 5 points,
Yeah.
right?
And you
So
want
now
the
it
whole
becomes,
line.
so,
No, is it a game or is it a drill?
That's the, that's the question.
so that's why we, so it starts off as a racing game.
Because me and you are going to race against each other all the way up. Once we've set that defensive line on either side, I've either beaten you by 4 or 3, right? And our team down that side there is either 5 against 4, and then it's a game. Once we go into that offensive stuff, then it becomes a game. We get to 10.
Well, once you get into it, it becomes a game.
Mhm.
What if
It's
it
still a game.
becomes? Because I think you've got some. Yeah. Okay, go back to this guy. What's your objectives?
Build line speed.
Line speed.
Line speed.
Okay, nothing wrong with that. We're looking at lines of running, line speed. You're winning the defensive line. You want to move the ball. You want to win the game line.
Yep,
Yep, get that.
or shut down their game line.
Okay, get that. Is it too prescribed?
He said it as I was walking up.
It is at the beginning.
Yep.
It is at the beginning.
Structured, you mean?
Yeah, at the beginning it's very structured, but then it gets to unstructured play because now the attacking team can attack anywhere across
Brilliant.
there, right?
Brilliant. So help our coaches out.
Yeah.
Help them out.
So I guess the question is, why don't we jump to that piece right away, right? Why don't we immediately make that more
Just
structured?
goes unstructured straight away.
How do we take the, what are you guys calling it now again? Facilitator?
Yeah,
So we should
facilitator.
cover
Yeah,
that
how do we
earlier.
take
Having that word.
How do we take, so no, because this is
Yeah.
where everyone goes with, we have to have some way of starting this. So now come with a different way of starting this, and if we're taking the facilitator out, then we can't tell them to go to a certain cone, but we can tell them they have to go use all 3 cones, can't
So
we?
we use all three balls, right?
There
So
you go,
could
now
just
we're,
put-
so,
you could just put a ball on each one.
so let's come with, we have to start this game then.
So you-
I'm not involved.
so you-
I just asked.
Sounds like, yeah.
I'm just asking questions.
I would stop in the middle.
Yeah, well, one thing we thought about at least is we could have the 5 players start here, and then, you know, they basically, you know, have to roll out their attack and defense at least 3 times, picking the 3 cones. They have to go.
It could be
go
as
through.
easy as go, you got this, that, their attack, so they go pick up whatever ball they want off one of those 3 cones and then attack, and the defense has got to go to the other side and get the launch on it,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then, so they'd have 3 attempts, and they would have 3 attempts eventually.
They can also switch, because once they've attacked, they cross that line, they win or they lose, they reassemble on the other side here, and they're now defending. So you've got a.
Is there much flow to this?
That's the other thing.
And do all 5 defenders have to get over the line to get a point?
Yeah.
Very structured.
You remove it, yeah, so.
So it's structured at the beginning, and then chaos when they decide to pick up whatever cone they want to pick and attack.
Not going off,
It's still pretty structured though, right? So you could also start removing players, so you have more spaces in players. That's another, to augment the game a little bit.
Yeah,
Big
there's
gaps.
a lot of good features to this. What good features do you see in this?
I see setting the line both offense and defense.
All right, yeah, and try to win that battle
Yeah.
for the game line, right?
Yeah, you
So-
create that forward movement, right?
So the concept of the game
Very
seems
good.
good. Do you really need to corral guys onto that sideline?
More free form, I think.
We can just, it's not like we just scatter a bunch of contracts, they will scatter. I mean,
Do you even need the cones?
you don't need cons, you just say, you scatter on this side, you guys scatter on that side between the two segments, right? And then it's like, you guys go, your attacks, and now they're attacking.
Yeah.
These guys have got to come up and get back in the line.
No, you-
quickly.
You got a contest between two a line and a line to hit this line. A
Yep.
contest for this
Yep.
line, right?
Yep.
So, do you need this?
Nope. They
So
could
you
be
can
scattered
get rid
between.
of that, right?
Yep.
And do you remember you've got about a minute or two to get a game going, and the less rules the better.
Yep.
What would you say to kids or players, adults, kids, whatever, here? What's the rules of this game? What do you know?
And can I refocus just a little? That I think it's terribly important to stick to one side for now.
Okay.
Because then what you would do is, you would then do another session focusing on the attack side, and then you would add both together, having accomplished your micro skills first. So stick.
You mean offense or defense?
Correct, I believe you said you were working on the defensive
Yeah,
side.
we're working on
Yeah,
That's what I said.
and that's what I like about it, and I think there's a way to go here if you just focus on one, on your defense right now.
That's all we're doing is focusing on the defense.
Correct, yeah.
And you want to see multiple repetitions of the defense winning the game line. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
That's the goal.
So how can you do that with less clutter and rules? It's very simple.
Reduce the number of players.
5v5's, you know, you could go to 3v3, you could go to 4v4, whatever, but I'm okay with that. Numbers are okay.
So then you're having to retreat back to the start line?
Is that what players have to do in a game?
Yeah.
So you could have them, so where could you start them and where could you,
Behind that line?
all right, so then what, so let's say defense is in that line, where's the attack?
Probably want them opposite over there.
On that line, right?
Yeah.
So they run and pass and attack, your defense comes up, and the point of contact means then you do what? Touch, like, or, let's say, right? What's gonna happen after that? Tap.
That ball could get dead, right?
Yeah.
And how many balls did you get over the game line?
What's your,
Right.
what's
So
your
if you
level
got
of contact in this
if you
one?
got touched on the other side, defense comes up, you get touched the other side line, you place that ball down there, you didn't get any over the game line,
Yeah.
right? Now the defense have just won that game.
Yeah.
On the other side, if you got it across that game line, put it into space on the other side.
Okay, so that's how you accumulate a
Points.
score.
Exactly.
But how do you get the flow in the game? You stop it and reset?
No, well, you put 4 balls on one side, right? They'd have 4 opportunities to get the ball across the game line, right? And at that stage, they've worked on defense on this stage, they've worked on attack on that side. Well, going back to 2 things. They'll be working on attack on that side. Once the balls are over, they've either got 0 points, right? And then it flips over. Now they take the 4 balls, put it back on their guy.
You need 4 balls.
Maybe not. Maybe
Most,
one.
most games have 1 ball, right?
Yeah, for sure, but it's different.
Oh, they just retreat with the ball.
Could do. But I'm just,
One ball in hand,
So there's 1 ball, so you come up,
they can
you
attack.
beat me to the game line,
Yeah.
you touch me, what do I do next? Go back?
get back. If you went and got another ball, I'm just thinking if you had 4 balls, so, and you went and pick another one up, now you can start understanding how far behind the game line are we getting? Are we losing, right? Or where the balls are placed?
Oh, you're placing balls in
Yeah,
the
just,
spots.
well, if I get touched and I place the ball here,
So
I haven't got to the game
one,
line.
then they start forward even with different depths, so they have to, they're attacking from different spots, and
Probably
defense is
change.
lining up in a different way. And they
I
have to
understand.
communicate and adjust.
All right, so I see where you're going there. So maybe there's 3 or 4 balls positioned. Give me an example of where you might position them for the attack.
So you've got, you maybe one here, and you got a different one here. You got 3 balls, for example, so. That's one way to look at it. So obviously there's an advantage to defense here. It's a little farther out. They're going to take more time to come up. So you don't want to make it too far back. You know. So yeah, I think.
And how do you score it?
So you just have to break the line. So we're not focusing on, you know, the attacking. You just need to cross that line.
Now,
with
playing
the ball.
devil's advocate here.
Yep.
Winning that chase line is going to vary when you start moving those balls around.
Mm-hmm.
So chasing for the deep ball, your tackle line is going to be different, right? Is that harder to referee? I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying.
No, because basically, the attack is gonna attack. What I'm focusing on is my defensive line coming up in the structure that I needed. Are they linked and are they taking inside shoulder out? Right, that's all I'm looking at.
And that's the purpose you'd say to the, so if you're gonna, if you're gonna introduce this game, it's, your focus is on?
Defensive line. The structure of the defensive line and how they're coming up.
So that's what they're gonna focus. And
all
then what
I
do you
care
say to
about.
the attack? Just do what you want.
Yeah.
Whatever you wanna do.
They can be smart and have one player.
All you have to
trail
do is break the
back.
defense. Your goal is to break the defense.
So that deeper ball, you can have, I mean, they'll figure out pretty quickly that one of the players that is attacking wants to trail and get ahead of that ball for the next sequence to get him started.
So after each touch, each tackle,
They
are
just
they
go
coming back to this line?
The defense has got to get retreat to that line, and the attack will go pick up the next ball, right?
Yeah.
And then the balls will be placed, and then we understand that.
And I just want to clarify the scoring system, because that's what we'll be watching this afternoon, is that 5 players must get across this center line together.
Together to touch the player with the ball.
Gotcha. Okay.
So you got the
And that's where the ball will get put. Once all
I
5
got,
players.
yeah, I just want to know the score, because that's what we're going to watch this afternoon. We're going to be watching how you explain the game, and then obviously the feedback from the players so that we can learn from it. Yeah, perfect. Perfect.
And they must get to that line linked.
Correct.
So there shouldn't be any holes there.
Are you gonna let, so you did, even in the long one, you're not gonna send a single chaser and then 4? You're gonna send.
No, yeah, they can do it, as long as they, all 5 of them get over that the middle game line.
I think that might be part of the creativity, like
Yeah,
we shouldn't
so
structure it and say, you're the chaser. You know, if they figure it out and say like, oh, we should have a chaser, then they can have a chaser.
You
It's
can
up to
have
them.
different
You can
lines
tell
and your
them.
chaser, maybe your you know how the game goes.
Exactly.
One person to pressure them,
So you
and
need
the other
line
4
is
set
kind
the
of
line.
like a reference for
Yeah.
the defense to go all together, but after that.
So
you
that
can
would
do
be
whatever
some of
the
that
defense
tactical
can achieve
figuring
to
out part of the
come
game
out
for
of the
them,
game.
right?
Okay.
So do we let them figure that out?
Yeah.
Or do we
Yeah,
kind of?
you do.
All right.
We kids. We can figure it out.
So I think we just need to clarify the scoring. Do we give a point only to the defending team?
No.
Or do we also give a point to the
So we can give a
attacking
point
team
to
if
the
they break
defending
line,
team,
right?
but if the offense is doing great stuff, then we take a point away from the defense, right? So the defense, the
That's too
defense.
much math for me.
Oh, I got it.
Remember-
2 coconuts plus
No,
1
no.
coconut equals 4 coconuts.
You got 3 balls in to get over the game line and you're done.
There you go, but we're working on defense, so they either have 0 points, or they have 1, or they have 2, or they have 3. Yeah, so let's concentrate that, because time is going to be the other part here. We're only working on one thing right now, and then after this, we'll know what else to work on. Okay, so are we okay with this game?
So both teams can score up to 3 points once they've gone through their 3 balls, and they're only getting scored on defense.
So we'll narrow it down.
Perfect, yeah.
We'll reinforce that.
Perfect. Okay. Yes.
But when I see all the games we done so far, that's a lot of running. Then we have most forwards coaches right here.
The lines are running.
Does this field have to be very big?
That could be the
We can shrink it.
We could shrink it, could be real narrow, it could be.
Besides this room?
Maybe size this room?
That's all the big forwards.
I mean, if that's too big, then we gotta find another game.
I made it big because I'm.
Can we get a round of applause, please?
Yeah. What are you gonna call your game?
Tiddlywinks. AC1.
Tiddlywinks.
What is tiddlywinks?
So,
Are you serious?
Oh.
Yes, 100%.
oh my God, can you Google?
Google.
Who's up next? You'd like to present before we get lunch?
We're all thinking of it.
You're gonna go for it?
What do you guys have?
Go, Sean. Contact.
All right, here we have balling contact.
Okay, so ball retention and contact, the skill, the objective we want to work on is the score the try and come back in the Superman ball presentation. So that's the skill we're looking for in this. We're calling it the Superman relay, or if you're from Western, you could call it the Supergirl relay, I guess. So teams of 3. You have 6 cones spread out along your field. I don't think I need to draw it, but they're in a straight line along the field. Teams of 3. 6 cones spaced out. It's just a relay race where they have to run out to the first cone, present the ball, score the try, and then bring it back in the Superman presentation. But you have one of the teams who's not in there following along, and the next player in the relay cannot pick that ball up and keep going until that person's demonstrated proper form, their body's out at that 6 o'clock, 180-degree angle to present it. And they have the players, their teammates are kind of judging them on this, saying go or no go, or they have to reposition and then the next player picks it up. But it should flow pretty fast, and it's just a relay to the end, and the team that wins it gets the point, and you can go back obviously in the other direction and do it a few times and tally up some points. And you could have any number of teams doing this at once, depending on how many players or spaces you have. And you bring in one of the teams who's in the resting phase to be judging it and coaching their teammates. Oh, we're not supposed to coach. Refereeing their teammates on whether they've done it properly and continue the relay. Ways you could build it up. Afterwards, you'd add in one of those players has to ruck over the ball. And then the Superman presentation has to happen underneath the ruck like it's really going to happen. But what we're getting out of this is just urgency and speed in the ball presentation. And as they relay down the field, obviously they're going to get more tired, and they'll have to keep doing it with proper form.
Is it 6 cones, so it's 6 people, or is it 6 cones and it's 3 people?
3 people, so everybody should get a couple reps on the ground.
So when you said 6 cones, you meant 2 teams going side by side?
Just draw 6 cones.
It's a line of 6 cones.
Yeah, a line of 6 cones.
All in one row?
No,
Stop points.
you'd have more than one for each team. So if you got 3 teams, you'd have 3 rows of 6 cones.
Oh, so it's a race.
It's a relay race. It's a relay race.
Okay.
And
I like it. I mean, it's pretty simple.
yeah.
The other thing about it too, the creativity part is that the players, since there's 3 guys going, first guy goes out 10 meters, 15 meters, and he does score the try, he does the Superman. The other 2 players are following him. They have to time their pick and go to maintain the speed to win the race. So if they're just standing, waiting, pick up the ball and go, they're learning, wow, I got to pick that ball up on the fly. It's also because most of the time in open field, the Superman is a way to keep the defender as far away from the ball for poaching. So then you got guys running on to that guy who's out there going, lonely ball, boom, Superman, a guy coming, pick and going.
And at the beginning, since we've got players refereeing it, we'd have to set the objective of, here's what we're looking for. We're looking for this Superman ball presentation. And I want you to judge how your buddies are doing this and tell them if the next player can pick the ball up or not. What were you going to say, Dean? Sorry.
The other area where we develop the creativity is for each individual, how are they going to do their spin? Because part of this is you can't pick up the ball until you're actually in proper position. And each individual, for me, it'll take about 20 minutes to actually make the spin. But if I can try to figure out how to make it faster, develop the individual tactics, even a game or relay as simple as this, there are tactics on how to win. And doing the spin, even figuring out the best way to do the spin, is a tactic. The speed coming onto your teammate, a tactic. That's where we develop our creativity, even in something as simple as this relay.
do want them to score the try before they start.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're gonna slide in like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
first base. Or, you know,
Well, they wouldn't need to have a 180
that
degree
sucks,
turn.
right? Yeah, they're gonna score, right?
Oh, yeah.
Questions, comments?
It's a good game. I think that's so basic, but yet it checks all the boxes.
I like how it's flexible in the sense where you said 2 lines, or it could be 3 lines. And then my mind goes, or it could be 4 lines.
Yeah.
Or it could be 6 cones, or it could be 8 cones. So
9
it has a
cones.
lot
Yeah,
of,
you can work within the
it's very
space and
workable
players that you
to
have.
the number of players, how little or how great it is, right? I guess I would only ask, like, now what does the winner get? Does the winner get to step off, or does the winner have to stay on? You know, that kind of stuff. Create that incentive. You know.
There you go.
Bragging rights.
Bidders, yeah.
Well, with my kids, it would be ice creams, not pints, but.
So we're getting some good feedback. We like it.
I like it.
I have.
You know what I like is it's so simple.
Okay, perfect.
Crazy, yeah.
I'm going to just ask then.
Alright, so catch and pass is fairly, you can argue that it's fairly simple, so we want to keep it to like fairly simple as well, and also mix a little bit of like known skills to keep it at a rugby basis. So we're thinking like a 20 by 15. This is pretty open-ended, so you can do as few or as many players as you want. So for this example, we're going to be doing 3v2. So this is kind of like touch, except we're not going to be using like a traditional rugby ball. We're just kind of mix it up a little bit. You can really do whatever you want. You can do like a cheap like foam ball that doesn't have as nice of a fly, or like a boot or whatever. So we're not going to do a normal kickoff because you can't kick like a boot. It might not be as like it's not going to be as efficient as a rugby ball. So let's say we have 3 players here, 2 players here, kind of like dodgeball. They're going to come in, try to get the ball, and then, well, I guess we have to have 3 on each side.
We'll take that part out.
Yeah, but you kind of have to get the, and then whoever gets the ball, you come back and you reset, and then it's, pretty much touch, but instead of focusing specifically on, we need to get this try, we're going to be focusing specifically on, like, you need to get this set amount of passes. So it's like, if you get through this number of passes, you get a point. And if you make it all the way, like, all right, then we did our, 2 passes here, and then all the way down, and then once you get to the try, you can get another point, but pretty much before you get to the try line, you can make as few or as little points as possible. So it's kind of to disincentivize a player grabbing the ball and being like, haha, this is my game now, and I'm just going to run at the end, because you're actually going to be making less points for your team that way. So it's incentivizing, like, let's pass the ball. Yes, Chris?
What if you don't have the goal as being to get to 1 second? The goal is just to see how many passes you can make, and that's how many points you get. And before the turnover occurs, or the drop pass, the other team gets the ball, and then it's their time to see how many passes they can get. You do this in 90 seconds, or however you want the time duration is. You say whoever completed the most passes wins.
Yeah.
Because you want to focus on your passing.
No,
That's the skill you want to develop.
Is it a giveaway game?
Parameters.
It's basically a giveaway game.
So the passes have to be legal.
Yes. We are, that's one of the things, at first, we're just gonna let them do what they wanted to do. As long as they're making passes, and then as we get into more developing the drill, then they have to make they have to make them good passes every time, yeah.
So is there, if the 3v2, if the 2 get the ball, are they at disadvantage?
Well, that's why we're gonna go back to 3v. We're gonna go back to 3v3 because we kind of had 2 different plans going.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had two different plans going.
So you could have the dimension you have right now, which is like short passes pumped up.
Yes.
You could go to a much wider one, where now you're getting to a longer.
And that's what we were thinking as the players are getting more developed in
even better at what they're doing. There's tons of options that we could do by lengthening, widening, bringing in an actual structured defense with a plan, and we could also bring plays in on the offensive side that have to be ran within it as well.
You could have sections that are narrower and wider as you go down the field.
Exactly.
The field says you're in tight, and then the next grid is wider, so as you get into it.
What's the rules?
Yeah, what are the defense doing?
So the defense, it depends on how many people you have, but defense are pretty much going to be being just, you know, I hate to just do stand-in defense, but this is a passing catch drill, well, not drill game. So we're focusing on like,
So a touch defense?
yeah, it's
touch
just a normal
defense.
touch defense. You know, if you have a lot of people, something that we've done in, like if you have like 7v7, what we've done in our team is that we have an accordion style defense of like, as soon as a touch happens, you guys all have to come together, touch hands, and then you can spread out again. But yeah, it's kind of just going to be like a normal kind of just straight on defense.
So if I'm carrying the ball against it and I get touched,
It,
do I just pass?
it resets, and then if the defense touches them twice, then the ball's turned over.
How do I reset?
It would just be that individual that got tagged. There'd be a 2 to 3 second time for the offense to get reset into a line and then pass out from there,
So
kind of like a scrum
do I
half.
put the ball on the floor? Does that keep it up?
It would have to be onto the ground and then start from there. It'd have to be,
So that'd be like a regular touch?
yeah.
Okay, so, Sean, you have some questions?
Yeah, so we're working on catch pass. Let me ask you a question on how disruptive is the defense on what we're trying to work on right now?
We don't want them to be, at first we don't want them to be aggressive at all.
Take them out then.
Okay,
Because let's go simple to more complex.
okay.
What could you do with that now to create a catch pass, either timed race, so up and back,
Right.
controlled race, like you mentioned, so maybe before that halfway line they have to have over and back, and then to finish over and back timed, or 4 times over and back, relay race if you have more players. Just think about what happens when you stick in defenders too early. You've lost what you were trying to work on, which is the specific nature of just that to that. And suddenly they've just caught it and they're tagged, and we're resetting, and we give it, and they're tagged again, and suddenly we're not getting what we want out of it. We're getting actually a very aggressive defense, but it's taken away from what you're working on. So just think about where, because we know what defenses do. They get all excited, they'll come right up and they're in the tag, and suddenly you've got a great defense going on, but it's not what we're working on.
What if you say that there's no defense, it's just all 3 players? What if you put like cones out on the field, or on your 2 by 20, and you say like, okay, like the goal is you can assign them different point values. This yellow cone's 1 point, this blue cone's 3 points, this red cone's this point. But then you say to them out, you say you got 30 seconds to pass the ball and have move the ball to each person sitting on the cone, and once you do that, you get a point, and we're going to move it again. You have to use your technique to move the ball to different areas of the field, and then assign point value to each cone, and so you count how many times they got the ball to the cone, and then how many points, how many times they passed the ball, and combining those.
Wouldn't that be slightly less dynamic in movement though?
I think you're inventing a new game.
So what we could do is stick
very
with
interesting.
what Sean was saying and go back to no defense at all, and still do 3 or 4 depending on how many players we have, and then they have to get X amount of passes before the halfway mark to get a point, and then complete another X amount of passes after that to get another point. Then we could put in a defense later on, or we could add more players to the pass. There are other ways that we can make it harder. We could short it, yeah.
But where's the contest? And it's just
The fastest. So not only is it the amount the teams that complete the passes within the section, but at the fastest rate as well. So those individuals that are passing it out faster, and then we could run like a relay
So from
time.
a start line to finish line, I've got to make, well,
X
can I win
amount.
it by getting to the finish line first, or is there a number of points or passes to get to the finish line?
Well, I think it should be, if we're going to do a no defense section where we just want to say, or you need to make this many passes, yada yada, there should be with each player who comes up. I would say, I would set a number of steps, because you don't want somebody like making 3 passes across like half of the field or however big the grid is, and like, but they take 7 steps between that before passing. So if there's no defense, I think there should be a little more structure in like what you can actually do with passing.
So you could do the most. The winner would be the team with the most amount of passes and the shortest amount of time through it, because then you're encouraging good passes as well as you're encouraging that flow forward as fast as possible.
And then penalize drop passes.
Yeah, and then drop passes, then however many seconds, or just start again.
Yeah, you could always just start at the
So
like
like-
drop passes. Just
So it's like show jumping now. So we're starting to really think of different
If you
games.
go back to your original thought,
Mm-hmm.
because 3v2s could be a game,
Mm-hmm.
a decent game, but the skill level involved in 3v2s for execution is not just the pass.
Correct.
It's the timing of the pass, and the lines are running, which you're gonna get to. If you started with 3v3, and you were to eliminate, think about how you can eliminate a defender, and then then it's a 3v2, then eliminate another defender, then it's a 3v1. Really think about that over lines, because I think you want to encourage passing.
Right.
But you want to encourage passing when it's the right time to pass and in the right circumstances. So just getting passes in.
Right.
And a passing relay is not a bad thing. But if you took your original thought and you started with 3v3, how can you eliminate defenders in the game?
So, just one thought here. The other way to think about this is to have still 2 teams in the same space competing for maximum passes. So they're in the way of each other, which
Opposite ends.
Yeah,
down
that's a
back.
great idea.
so that helps with awareness of when to pass, not to pass. So there's some form, but you're not putting tremendous pressure in terms of defense.
So you go down and back, first
Yeah.
person to score. So now
There
you're
you
going to
go.
count the passes.
We're just counting passes. Yeah, just
Now
counting
you know
passes.
time and count.
So the players have to figure out when to pass and when to, and you still you can get the speed there. So there's just thought.
So we good with this one too? And progressionally now as well?
Yeah, lots of progression.
Yeah, a lot of progressions in this one. So round of applause, please.